Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 168. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay.
Hey Jay, what'd you get down to doing this week?
It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Cocked your head to the side and said I'm angry.
All right, man, so what'd you get up to doing this week? Did you do anything fun? Anything you'd like to share with anyone? Anything cool? I mean, you never do anything cool. That's the thing about you.
I mean, I had my first shift as a bar back at Broken Goblet.
All right, yeah. Getting paid under the table like
our boys at Broken Goblet.
You're getting paid under the table like a divorcee who's trying to escape child support.
It's the best way, right? Tax-free.
Tax-free. And like I said, it's tax-free because you haven't filled out a W-2 yet until you slip and
in a
fall.
couple weeks. Yeah,
you slip and fall, hurt yourself, and they find out you're not on a payroll, so they're going to wheel your ass out back and just let you expire.
I'm suing y'all. Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Oh, I want 150,000.
Because they can't afford.
I would never sue them. Don't worry.
Oh, they're not worried about getting sued, but if they have to call an ambulance and stuff, that's the first thing that their workman's comp's going to want to know. It's like, you know, is he working there? No, he was just a crazy man who jumped back here and started bar backing for us.
But sir, we see him on camera behind the bar for 6 hours straight.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, it was a wild night. It was a Tool experience. So it was the day that Tool finally released a new album of theirs, and they haven't done that in quite some time.
Over a decade, yeah.
And it was a big deal. So they hyped this up pretty much the whole year.
I know the pieces fit.
For a long time, a lot of people thought that it was going to be the actual band Tool playing.
I know.
And that was kind of a funny running joke throughout the year. So this brewery is a massive music venue brewing company brewery really, and they just moved into this new location in the early summertime, and I was lobbying to try and get in there to be, you know, working in any kind of capacity for a couple years, and they finally got their legs underneath of them, smoothed things out, figured out their scheduling, and finally asked me to start trickling in some hours and get the feel for the place. And
I hope everyone heard that. Jay's dream for the past 3 years has to be a bar back getting paid under the table.
It's the little things in life, David.
I suppose.
Now look, I did not. So it was like a Band-Aid getting ripped off because it was packed. It was pretty much almost as busy as it'll ever get at that place. And I was full-fledged bending over, up and down, crossing, like all over the place for 7 hours.
Let me tell you, with career aspirations like this, I don't know why you bother with this podcast anymore.
6'8", my back was never more flamed up ever in my life. I was hurting. That night, barely made it throughout the shift. And the first half of the day, I was literally in recovery between stretching, heating pad, aspirin.
You need a Lauren, brother.
But that was okay. I went back that night to do Kinky Quizzo with Dave and our friends, and it was I was all good.
Yeah, you did. You need a Lauren. I mean, that's what I do. Like when I do like an entire day's worth of like yard work, or I do something strenuous, and my back is all like out of whack. I just let Lauren walk up and down my spine.
Oh.
Cures what ails you so quickly.
This was beyond anything I've ever felt before. It was very bad. But I mean, it was one of those things where like I knew this was going to be the worst it would ever be. So I'm like, all right, I can survive this. And plus, with the money involved, it was worth it, I think.
Put that under the table money. Yeah. Tax-free money, baby. So for me, what I did this weekend was we did go to Broken Goblet. We played some Kinky Quizzo, but we were really there to celebrate sort of like a podcast milestone that we hit. I would just say like we had our most successful month of download numbers ever in the month of August. Not going to say how many or anything like that. Not going to be too braggadocious about it, but
No.
but we had a good month, and it equaled us $0. Hence why Jay has to get a second job under the table bar packing because we still don't make any money really off the show.
We are still broke as shit.
Still broke, but
it's going to stay that way probably.
But you know, we went there, and it was, you know, I just remember us having so much fun at Kinky Quizzo last time, and this time when I was there, I was annoyed. I was just far more annoyed than anything because the quizmaster, she has a acquired taste, like a voice that you have to acquire. You know,
it's very rough, very heavy in the microphone.
Oh my god!
And the acoustics in there are pretty loud.
I wanted to go up there and tell her like, you don't need to hold the mic up so it's touching your lips.
Right.
It's okay to hang it down here by your chest. We'll still hear you, trust me. But she literally does like we were saying like all night. Like she sounds like Sam Kinison, where like everything she said was punctuated with like,
I was up to my knees in rice patties with guns, and then we're going up against Charlie, slugging it out with him, while pussies like you were back here partying, putting headbands on, doing drugs, listening to the goddamn Beatle albums.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
like, and it was bothering the shit out of me. And if that loud sound was very annoying, that was my night for 2 hours. I'm sorry. It pissed me off.
And it was worse than that sound. I mean, believe me, it was rough. I mean, it was definitely something I don't know how people can tolerate it. I mean, people have fun. She has a pretty good personality. The funny thing is, like, you would think that after doing this for so long, so many years, it's like her own business.
Yeah, you'd think
she'd be able to learn how to speak in the microphone properly.
Anyway,
anyway, I mean, not to give her any shit. I mean, I do like her. She's kind of cool, but it gets rough.
So I got some interesting news that kind of happened in my world a little bit. So some people may know, some people may not know. I was raised Catholic, Jay, and I went to Catholic school practically my entire life. Grade school.
I'm not sure many people know about that.
And I came into contact with a priest for, we'll call him Father Frank. That is his real name, but I'm not going to use his last name. And Father Frank, I was an altar boy. He was the guy who was in charge of all the altar boys. Now, he never did any...
How well did you know?
Okay, so I'm getting there.
Okay.
So I just found out recently today, everyone was texting me, that Father Frank was just indicted on child sex charges.
Oh, God.
And he was arrested for sex crimes that he committed between like the 1990s and the early 2000s. That time that I was there, when I was there as an altar boy. And everyone's like, dude, did anything ever happen? I was like, no, I mean, nothing. Like, me and my brother, both altar boys, and as far as I know on my brother's end, but definitely on my end, nothing ever happened. I always was an altar boy with my friend John. The guy who told me was actually my friend John from school. It was his dad, who I work with at times. He was telling me all about it. So he was just indicted. He was arraigned literally right down the street at Judge Wapner's, which is right down the street. I know, Judge Wapner. I'm sorry, we do have a Judge Wapner here. So he was arraigned there, and then he went to jail, and he was released on $250,000 bail, and he's out now. But he will be going. He will be going in front of a judge very soon. But they wouldn't arrest a priest unless they have a very strong case against him. And they've already said that they have 2 victims who've came forward with credible stories and everything like that. And they're asking for more people to come forward. And like, people are texting me and they're like,
people actually think that you're probably lying too.
Are you going to come forward? I was like, nothing happened. And like, that's the thing. So like, first off, what he did is reprehensible. It's disgusting. And I feel bad for anybody. My heart goes out to them because dealing with sexual assault is one of the hardest things. That was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this news story. The second thing that came to my mind was, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, why didn't he come? Why wasn't I chosen? What did I do?
Everybody has their own taste.
Right. I just wasn't as tight.
Maybe he likes blonde boys.
Maybe he likes blonde boys.
Fair skin, a little dainty. I don't know.
The 2 victims are remaining anonymous right now. However, when they go to testify,
as they should, hopefully, as much as possible.
When they go to testify in court, they probably will not be kept anonymous. However, it probably will be a closed courtroom and all that stuff. But they are asking for more people to come forward. And that's what I thought. Like, even the guy I work with, John, was just just like, come on. He's like,
now, were you recounting your time throughout?
I actually thought about it. Yeah, and there was literally
no
nothing,
hints,
nothing that I knew of. Now he's had sex charges brought up against him about 10 years ago, and he's no longer a practicing priest. He's still in he's still part of the archdiocese and stuff like that, but he does not perform mass. He is not allowed near altar boys and stuff like that. But now, since these new charges have come up, his previous charges were in Philadelphia and they were eventually dropped for lack of evidence. But these new charges are here in Bucks County, and he is going before a judge. So he more than likely is going to be going to jail. But that's the thing. Like, everyone's like, Dave, I mean, nothing. And it's like, holy shit, dude. Like, no, nothing. Nothing happened. Believe me, I probably would come forward because I would definitely be going after the Vatican for a little bit of that cashola. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Vatican's got deep pockets, and I would love nothing more.
And that's all they've spent their money on in the last 30 years, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping people quiet.
Exactly. But yeah, so while my first thought is my heart goes out to the victims, the second thought is, why not me? What was wrong with me as a child? It's the same prevailing thought I have now most days of my life. Why me? Why not me?
I think you're doing just fine, dude. I think you got the better end of the stick on that one. I think.
I'm sure I did.
So,
I'm sure I did. But that's just where I go. I internalize everything that happens. Somehow it's negative towards me, and I find a way to make it negative towards me. So, Jay, let's head over and let's find out, what are you watching?
What are you watching?
What are we watching?
He's trying to watch some illegal channel.
Always watching.
No, go past this part. In fact, never play this again.
All right, man, so what'd you get down to watching this week? I know you have 2 reviews. I want you to talk about what you were watching. I'll talk about what I was watching, and then you'll do your 2 reviews, and then we'll pop over and start getting some fucking beers in us.
Well, I finally finished The Boys.
Boys!
Loved it. I really, really, really was impressed.
Fucking awesome,
Actually, right? The whole arcs of every single character I thought was very well done and well executed.
Told you.
Not with just the superheroes, but also the humans.
They're already in production for season 2.
And for such a taut little season, I thought I was really impressed. And
a little lacking on superhero action for a superhero.
Yeah,
story.
but look,
budget. That came down to budget.
Budget will be raised.
Supposedly, season 2, the budget's gone up significantly enough for them to add more superhero stuff. But
exactly, which would make a lot more sense.
Let's not suck its dick too much. I already filleted it enough a couple weeks ago.
I just wanted to give my stamp of approval as well. Thoroughly impressed with it. I thought the casting with the show was really well done, and I'm happy to see the way it's going and looking forward to season 2.
Well, you were given a movie homework back when we were on 3 weeks ago on the Countdown Pod. You were given a movie homework by Paul, Wayne, and myself for a horror film. I like The Conjuring quite a bit, and I was actually shocked to hear that you hadn't seen it.
Right.
And especially given our love for Patrick Wilson, sir, our mutual love of Patrick Wilson.
This is true.
And you had not seen The Conjuring, which was strange. So Paul, Wayne, and myself gave you a movie homework to watch The Conjuring. So did you get around to watching it? I even sent you a text message to remind you about it.
Yes, and I did. And this was, it's not that old. It's only 2013.
Yes.
James Wan did it. And I would say the first maybe close to half of the movie, I was just like, okay, it's fine. It's very just paint by numbers to me. It wasn't anything special so far. The setups were
once the Warrens get involved.
Exactly. Once everybody moves into the house and really starts to get into trying to figure out what's going on with paranormal activity and what's going on and figuring things out, especially in this day and age, it was, very cutting edge, very new technology trying to capture these things. I was really impressed, and more or less really impressed with the stunts. The stunt work, production values in that house were exceptional and really, really cool. There's no quick cuts. It was all shot in frame a lot of times, a lot of practical effects done. That was the coolest things that I took upon my enjoyment in this movie, I think. Yeah. And it did go by pretty quickly. It's an hour and 50-minute movie. It's not that short, and luckily it's not that long, but it just feels just about right, and it had a nice marriage of with mostly, which was smart, backstory with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. They're like husband and wife, and his wife has had more a little bit very touched experiences.
They are
with
Ed and
like
Lorraine
that.
Warren. They are based on real life paranormal investigators. Right. The famed Ed and Lorraine Warren, who now after Ed has passed, and I believe Lorraine just passed away as well. Now that all that stuff is done, a lot of people has spent years kind of especially in the paranormal circle, like worshiping them and everything they did. Now people are starting to look back and are like, holy shit, they were charlatans. So, I mean, they actually have a very interesting history and stuff. So I encourage anyone to read up on Ed and Lorraine Warren. They have some fascinating stories about the paranormal. They also...
A lot of respect.
Yeah, but also like read some of like the detractors of the Warrens and stuff like that and hear about like some of the more, charlatan aspects
but that's the funny thing about this world is, you can almost semi-prove.
It's like Ghostbusters. You just make yourself up.
Oh yeah.
You just make
really
it into
could.
a business, and it works. And you just find the believers, and it works. But as far as The Conjuring goes, it was like one of my favorite horror movies of like recent times. We really should do like a top 5 of like modern horror movies, because like someday in the future, because that Insidious, like those came out like right around the same time, both with Patrick Wilson, and I truly love them. So I'm glad you at least enjoyed yourself. I know you.
I did.
I didn't think you were going to love it, but I'm glad that
I
you
did
at least
not love it because honestly, I mean, it's just not my cup of tea. However, I did respect it and I did enjoy it, and
it's very effective horror.
I was happy to see it just keep ramping up and up and up for it.
Now it does, it does fall victim to like jump scare itis, where it's just throwing jump scares at you and stuff like that. But I think it blends that in with like just true atmospheric fear, like where like once they enter into the house, especially when Ed and Lorraine get there, you feel like the house is against them.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. Like as far as the quality of the way it was shot and directed, and the production values of the house, and all the stunt work that was involved in it. It was semi-predictable sometimes, but then they would quickly surprise you sometimes.
I'll say the ending. The ending is not predictable. Like the ending is. I mean, it's very Exorcist, like in its brutality of like performing an exorcism. So,
oh yeah.
What I got around to watching, Jay, this week, I didn't really watch a whole lot. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I watched a lot, but it's nothing that I can really like go into detail about because I watched Captain America: First Avenger, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War. I watched Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame.
I knew it.
I spent like
Dave's sickness came back out.
Well, no, so like it's weird. It was almost like I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna say goodbye to the MCU for a while. Like, so I just decided to like watch all these movies because the MCU is gonna go away for a while. It's gonna come back when Disney Plus comes out, and we start getting all the new TV shows and stuff like that, and the new movies start hitting next year with Black Widow and stuff like that. But Black Widow, because it's a prequel, it's gonna feel a little bit far removed from the rest of the MCU story. So like, I just wanted to like watch all this stuff, and plus, I was in the midst of working on some of our Patreon exclusive content, so we're going to be doing a Patreon exclusive movie cocktail for just Captain America. We're going to talk about Captain America in the MCU, the character, and like his progression throughout the movies and stuff like that. It's going to be the first time we do a movie cocktail for a specific character and not for like an entire movie. So I decided just to watch all the movies that had Captain America in it, just to start preparing for that. And of course, because I love them, I love those movies. I also watched It, Jay, because we are preparing.
Yes.
We're preparing for It Chapter 2. We're going to have a review for it next week. It's coming out this week. We and Lauren already have our early showtimes for it, so we will be going to see that very soon. So I wanted to watch It Chapter 1, which we're also doing a Patreon exclusive movie cocktail for It Chapter 1. So I wanted to watch that, prepare for that. So that's going to be our Patreon episode this month. So patrons can enjoy us discussing a more contemporary movie instead of a lot of times some of the older movies that we get to talking about on Movie Cocktail when we do the regular show. But other than that, man, that's really all I did. Lauren got into watching The Crown on Netflix, and I really enjoyed going back into that and rewatching that with her this time, and
Great show.
getting into the history of it and stuff like that. Seeing John Lithgow's performance, which is absolutely fantastic.
Well, actually, season 3 will be coming out relatively soon.
November, I believe it's coming out. Or no, early 2020. It's going to be coming out.
Oh, that long. Okay.
So, so we were watching that so that we can watch season 3 when that comes out, and then Working Moms season 3, the Catherine Reitman created show that's on Netflix now. It's now a Netflix exclusive series. So season 3 just dropped. I find it absolutely hilarious. I think Catherine Reitman is a wonderful comedic voice for like our time right now. So if you're not checking out Working Moms on Netflix, I highly recommend it. All right, Jay, you got 2 reviews that you're going to do for everybody. You got Good Boys, right?
Good Boys and Ready or Not.
And Ready or Not. Man, I was so close to going to the movies this weekend and seeing Ready or Not.
You should have seen both of these.
Yeah, I'll check them out. I'm not going
Actually,
to do
to be
reviews
honest, and the third one I promised I was going to see. I just still haven't quite gotten there yet. The Peanut Butter Falcon, I think, is supposed to be one of the best movies out there as far as
It was
well
Labor
done,
Day
crafted,
weekend.
and
I
that-
wasn't fucking
I
leaving
know.
the house for anything.
and the weather was pretty nice, so everybody wanted to just be outside. Nobody wants to go to the movie theaters, but I made
No, I just stayed inside, Jay, in the dark, playing video games and watching movies. I didn't go outside.
You're
I
right,
just didn't
shut
want to. I just didn't want to leave the house. It just.
Oh, I understand.
When you get a week off, sometimes you don't want to do anything, and there are times now from doing this podcast where going to the theaters feels like work. Because now I'm analyzing movies in a different way than I used to. And it's not always fun. So I didn't feel like going to the movies. For 2, what are going to wind up being mediocre films for this year that, I'll catch eventually at some point. And I'm not terribly interested in dropping $20 for each of them to watch them.
But these movies, I'll just go right out and say I thought they were very enjoyable. Different kind of movies, straight up young comedy and a good old fashioned interesting horror movie. So I'll start with Ready or Not.
1,000.
When someone new joins the family, you have to play a game.
2,000.
Hide and seek? Are we really gonna play that?
3,000.
You can hide anywhere in the house.
I know you're in here.
4, 5,
You have to kill you before sunrise.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ready or not, here I come.
Ready or Not. It follows this young bride. She just got married to this super rich old school family.
Just doing it right.
Oh yeah, and they make jokes about that. And as soon as they get married, they just get right into it. It's a short little movie. It's about an hour and a half long, and they have this game because they made their fortune from gaming, essentially, in different kind of ways and forms.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Do they play the Refugees song, Ready or Not, Here I Come, I'm gonna find you?
They should have.
They should have, see?
should have.
I should be a movie producer.
You're in the wrong business, David. And they actually have to play this game where if they draw a card and whatever that card says from what the bride picks, they have to play. It can be everything from checkers to guess who. And there's this one card that does not get picked every year so often is hide and seek.
Yeah,
and hide and seek is not just hide and seek. It's the bride hides and everybody in the family has to kill her.
The most dangerous game.
And if they don't kill her, their fortune will go away and they will be cursed. And if they do kill her, they stay successful and everything goes according to plan.
Look,
it's very heightened,
as soon as I picked that card, I'm like, honestly, if you didn't want me in the family, you should have said something when the priest when the priest was up there and he said, does anyone have any objections to this union? You should have jumped up then. But now instead you fucking picked this card out and then, I know you made that happen. This wasn't happenstance, and now I got to run around and you got to kill me.
Look, as corny as it is, I had fun with this. I mean,
this is right up my alley.
This is it was just so well realized and executed.
Just to see a woman killing like her family members in a wedding dress, just
Oh yeah,
sounds great.
It did not shy away from the gore and the humor as well. There's a lot of surprise kills, surprise situations. It was really well casted. A lot of the actors were just really well done, and it is just, they just knew exactly what they were doing. Everybody was on the same page, and the production values was phenomenal. It was really a good time. I was very pleasantly surprised by it, and I think this Samara Weaving, who is I think the niece of Hugo Weaving.
Okay,
so
she's also the Kmart brand Margot Robbie.
She is.
Yeah, very much so.
Very blue eyes.
Yes.
And she was fantastic. She really was. So good on her. And, it's a solid B for me. I just really enjoyed it. It's nothing too brilliant. This has script issues, obviously, for that kind of a film. But I had a good time with it.
You say script issues. I feel like I would find these issues to be quite charming. All right, Jay. And then you got around to watching Good Boys.
Good Boys.
All right, your 5-minute-ish review for Good Boys.
Trailer.
I'm having a party tomorrow. You in? You do not want to go to the party not knowing how to kiss.
My parents have a CPR doll. We can practice kissing on that.
Stop! You can't kiss someone without their permission.
Picture this.
I found all these weapons in my parents' closet.
And knobbies?
Who's that? It's my mom back there.
Hi,
Are you a pedophile?
do I look like a pedophile?
You look more like a pedophile than anyone I've ever seen.
So, Good Boys. It follows these 3 lifelong friends. They're 6th graders now.
It's kind of a short life. Let's not oversell it. Okay, they're only like 11.
No, Dave, they're 6th graders. They're not 5th graders. They're 6th graders. Okay, so
Fair
they are
when you
obviously
when you were in 6th grade, whatever friends you had, that was life.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like you feel like you're borderline semi-adult now. You're getting there. But this really embarked on such an interesting and this epic journey of surprisingly dark adult themes. However, grounded in the reality of their actual youth and their underdevelopedness of life and not knowing how to open medicine bottles,
pill bottle,
like pill bottles to, not knowing exactly what's going on, how to kiss or sex or different nuances of life that you just haven't had that kind of experience yet because you're fucking 6th grade.
There's certain things that they don't teach you when you're growing up. Like,
right.
People
you
teach
have to live to learn, right?
People teach you to tie your shoes. People teach you to swim. People teach you to ride a bike. Jay, something I learned this week that no one ever taught me was how to properly open a beer can. So for years,
without breaking the fingernail,
I've been trying to use my fingernails or I use my teeth or I find something to wedge in there. And then I learned, Jay, that you just press your thumb on the tab and the back of the tab lifts up and it's magic. And I feel like I'm saying this and everyone's like, yeah, you big dumbass. That's how you're supposed to open a fucking can. But to me, no one taught me how to do that.
Yes.
I was 33 years old the day I learned how to open a beer can properly. So I get where these kids are coming from.
Exactly, Dave. So Jacob Tremblay is our main lead. He is adorable and perfectly casted. All 3 of these guys were great. Keith L. Williams played Lucas. Brady Noon played Thor. And they just had an interesting dynamic of friendship.
First off, how any kid named Thor is not the coolest kid in fucking class, I'll never know.
To me, he was the coolest kid in this movie. I really liked him a lot. And it really touched on a lot of different kind of moments. It was nice school moments, friend moments, trying to be cool, trying to be yourself, trying to follow your own path.
It's nice seeing Jacob Tremblay not playing the creepy kid in something.
Right. Because it was just so much fun.
Because even in Room, where he played Brie Larson's son,
yes,
he was the creepy kid in that movie too. Even though there's reasons for why he's creepy, that's fine. Yeah. He's still the creepy kid in that movie.
Come and play with us, Daddy.
He's got a creepy kid face,
It was, kind of. He's going to be a star one day, I'll tell you that. And it was just a good, fun movie. The humor, for the most part, worked pretty well with me. I just had, obviously some things fell flat, some things just weren't quite set up well enough or were cut a little too short. But it was funny to see, like, was the thing that I kind of found a lot of pretty funny was they had a lot of crying scenes.
Okay.
Because they're getting in fights but they're in sixth grade and they don't know and understand, like, they're getting all these emotional turmoil, like frustrated, like arguments with their friends, and they're just crying and they're all like, we can see their fake tears. There's like this big glob tears going down their cheeks, and that's just from hair and makeup people probably putting that on their faces or something. But
all right,
it was, I don't know, it's still a fun movie. I'm also going to give this a B.
I still feel like
solid, fun little. Interesting.
I still feel like
comedy.
Producers of this movie were just like, no, we're gonna make Superbad, but we're gonna scale them down. We're gonna make them a little younger.
But like, it touches on this era that you just never see on screen, and it was just so cool to see that. And you
don't see it portrayed in that way anyway when you see it on screen. No. You never see it aged down like that.
No, and I really appreciated that because that was an era of mine that that's really my childhood that I think of is that kind of era.
Right. Look, we saw Booksmart
when
earlier.
I was rollerblading around town or on my bike, getting into shenanigans with my buddies and stuff, and sneaking in pornos in the woods and watching them. And
we saw Booksmart earlier this year, which was kind of like the. And I don't want to say like female version, but it kind of was the female perspective of the teen comedy,
right?
And this is the preteen perspective of the teen comedy.
Yeah, exactly. So, spin the bottles, stupid stuff like that. It was adorable. It was fun. And again, it was just a nice hour and a half movie. So, kudos to them. It is worth checking out at some point. Not worth rushing out to the theater per se. But
neither of these seem like theater movies.
No, but there's definitely worth checking out at some point or another.
But you can see how, like, when me and Lauren on the couch binge watching, The Crown and binge watching Working Moms and watching MCU movies this weekend, you can see how, like, you look at yourself and you're in comfy clothes and you go, you want to go to the movies and see Ready or Not? No. You want to go to movies and see Good Boys? And she's like, yeah, no. You want me to get up and make some bacon for breakfast? Yes. Whole house smelled like bacon.
Well, that sounds like a married couple in their 30s.
Yes. You want to crack a beer open at 1 p.m.? Yes.
Of course.
Of course. It's a holiday weekend, Jay. Drink up. But I'm glad that you enjoyed those. I definitely do want to check them out. But really, come on. I'm just saving myself for It Chapter 2 this week. And I gotta say, the Joker buzz is getting me. While I've hated the marketing, the fact that it's getting such rave reviews from early screenings and stuff, obviously my interest was, look, if this was going to be a dumpster fire, I was going to see it anyway, because then I got to stand on top of my mountain and go, I told everybody. But now that it's going to be good, I can actually be happy about it and just have to eat my crow and enjoy it if it's going to be good.
And I get to say, told you so.
No, you don't get to say, told you so. You don't get to say that, Jay.
All right. I'll say something different.
Because you didn't make the movie. If you made the movie, then you could say, told you so. Todd Phillips can come here, and he could say, told you so.
And he deserves to.
All right, Jay, let's head over. Let's get into our beers. Welcome back to the beer segment. Me and Jay got 2 beers that we're going to be reviewing for you, but before we do that, got to drop a line to our sponsor, Blowfish. Blowfish, it's the only FDA-approved hangover cure. What it is, 2 tablets that you drop into 8 to 12 ounces of water, drink it down, and your hangover starts to feel better immediately. So, if you were out celebrating on a Saturday night, and you went to Kinky Quizzo, and your quizmaster was just so loud on the microphone that she sounded like Sam Kinison, like, these things don't come off! That's what she sounded like for 2 hours while you're playing Quizzo, and you wound up drinking so much that just to drown out the noise that you
not exaggerating
that you wound up going home and having to take some Blowfish to ensure that you don't wake up with a hangover. So if you would like to cure the scourge of hangovers for good, make sure you head over to 4hangovers.com. Use the promo code SMBFish to get your 15% off.
I'm cured!
Super Movie Brothers is also brought to you by the Podcoin app. The Podcoin app is a podcast listening app that you can download on iOS or Android devices. It allows you to listen to all your favorite podcasts while earning points for each minute that you listen to podcasts. You can then use those points to purchase gifts for yourself, gift cards to some of your favorite places, or you can save up your points and donate them to charity. And just be, just feel good about yourself for once,
How can you not?
Just feel good about it. Maybe when you're hungover and you're taking your Blowfish and you're waiting for it to kick in, pop on the Podcoin and then just, donate some of your points and start feeling good about yourself. So make sure you download Podcoin and you listen to Super Movie Bros on there by going to your Android and iOS app stores to download Podcoin. All right, Jay, you got a beer that you're going to be reviewing for us tonight, man. What is that beer? What you got drinking there?
I have Spoetzl Brewing Company's Shiner Oktoberfest.
Yeah, and I assumed, I have, for some reason, I've always seen Shiner, and I just associate it with, that men's organization that's, charitable, and they run, the Shiners Hospital for Children and stuff like that, but they're also kind of like a Moose Lodge and whatnot.
Yeah.
Turns out that's not the case.
No. Even the style of the whole bottle and everything is very German, very European looking, but it's not. It's Texas, baby. And from Shiner, Texas, actually. That's the name of the town. And it is a 5.7 alcohol by volume, very, very Oktoberfest style beer. It is a very muddy, dull color brown. Has a bit of a flat taste to it. However, it is extremely sweet and malty. A lot of caramel notes, but not too much of a bite to it. But it's a proper, I feel like it's a proper good old-fashioned Oktoberfest.
But like most Oktoberfest, they're not exactly bold and robust beers, you know? There's nothing usually bold about Oktoberfest.
It's very to the point, very bland. However, very drinkable, and it's not a bad beer. I'm sounding a little down on it, but it's a pretty good beer.
I'm kind of upset because you're jumping ahead. Normally, we save Oktoberfest for a theme where we do throughout the entire month, but you're jumping in early. We treat it like our pumpkin spice.
I know, and honestly, and this is the reason why I only got one review beer that I was going to do. That one is okay. So I have to admit, I didn't go to our normal girl. I kind of cheated on Christina.
That's right. I found a better. I found a better place anyway.
It was mostly because this place was right next to the liquor store. I had to stop in there really quick before I came over to record. And
you went to Dion's Beverages right next to the State Store.
Yeah,
that's where I go a lot.
Yeah, they're cool. And they had some single individual ones, like a lot of, they just said, a little, somebody drops one or whatever, something happens, they throw in all the odd ducklings into this one cooler.
It's literally at the end of my street. That's why I go there a lot. It's so close. So
so I just kind of picked up a few random things, and it was that. So
some odds and ends, some little bits.
Yeah, why not?
The leftovers.
And I'm pleasantly surprised. I've always seen this brand. I just never picked one up before, and I'm happy I did.
All right, so I am drinking.
Oh, let me give it a grade real quick. I'm going to give it a 2.75 out of 5.
Sure. So you don't hate it. You just, don't love it.
No, exactly.
So I am drinking the Ballast Point Brewing Company Grunion Pale Ale. This is a proper West Coast Pale Ale. It is super smooth, super dry hopped up front, very bitter on the back end, but it is crisp, clean, and refreshing. I fucking like it quite a bit. I like it a good bit. Yeah, I'm gonna be giving this a 4 out of 5.
Very nice.
I like this a lot. It's a little bit too bitter on the back end, but I'm not gonna kick it out of bed for eating crackers. It's solid. I like it a bit. So let's head over. Let's get into our top 5 for this week, because we are doing our top 5 favorite cult films.
Yeah, this is gonna be cool.
All right, Jay, it's been quite some time since we got ourselves into a top 5. And we do have some top 5s on the back burner. We've been waiting for kind of like a lull in the movie season to get back into our top 5s where we don't have to do so many, big reviews and stuff. And this week just happens to be one of those weeks where we don't have a lot of big reviews to do. We're waiting on it, and then we'll probably get some chance to do some top 5s in the fall, too.
Oh, yeah.
So we decided this one's been one that's been sitting on the back burner for quite some time. I am a huge fan of cult films. I've been on Marc's show, Cult Movie Cult. You can check them out on iTunes and anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. And, I absolutely love cult film. I love just loving this thing that's like, it's niche, right? Like it makes you feel good to have something that you love that not everybody else is into. Now, cult film is kind of like this topic that it's kind of changed in the past like couple of years, where I feel like a lot of the cult films that I love are now more widely accepted by people. However, there are still some that, you know, I feel not enough people have seen. And it's the type of, you know, cult films are the type of movie that they weren't either critically successful, or they didn't make a ton of box office, or they didn't have a wide enough release for a general audience to catch a glimpse of them, or they were just ahead of their time. But now they resonate so much more. And I really love turning people on to some of my favorite cult films. And I think that's what everybody who is a fan of cult film or has a cult film that they love loves, turning other people onto it and showing it to them. And it's also that thing where like you get really upset if they don't like it as much as you do, or when you watch it with them, you end up watching their faces to see if they react at a scene the same way you did. And when they don't, you're slightly disappointed, which is it's my movie going experience with Lauren, like 90% of the time that I show her any of my cult favorite films.
Well, I think that's something that's really interesting to, you know, that you bring up, and my list is going to be pretty surprising, I think, to a lot of people, because I definitely went more, for the most part, I think, off the beaten path to some degree. I really try to stay away from any type of, in my mind or perspective, well known, even if they are very culty and they are still hit or miss to some people. I still feel like more people are aware of these kind of movies sometimes.
For me, it's going to be a bunch of movies that I'm sure people have heard me talk about on this show before if they've been listening for long enough. But we got a lot of new listeners, so maybe I'll surprise a few people. But Jay, what is your number 5?
Number 5 is probably the most obscure film I'll probably have on my list. It is Dead Man.
Your hair is soft. It's like a girl's.
By God, it is soft. Now, how do you get it that way? See, this old stuff of mine, it's just like old barn hay. There ain't a darn thing you can do with it.
Okay. Dead Man is Jim Jarmusch's film from 1995, starring Johnny Depp, and he plays an accountant. It's a Western, so this is a Western fantasy drama.
Some would call him Jim Hit or Miss Jarmusch. Yeah. Like we did when we saw The Dead Don't Die, which we reviewed this year.
Exactly. So his films are classically very obscure, very
total cult,
unique, and very culty.
Oh yeah.
So this one is also one of those things that, you know, it's black and white. It's a obscure kind of movie. This guy, he's an accountant played by Johnny Depp. You know, he's got this new job. I think it's New Mexico, somewhere in the West, and he's, you know, it's a Western, so it's very old school. He's on this one train going in the middle of nowhere. He takes his job and he falls into murdering somebody, and then he's going on the run. And he encounters this Native American, and they go on this kind of weird spiritual journey, and they're, you know, they've got their bounties on their head, and they're just trying to survive. And it's a beautifully shot movie with a Neil Young guitar score that I heard he actually scored from just watching the movie and alone in the sound booth and just riffing, you know, while watching the movie, which is kind of cool. It's kind of unique. And it's definitely a movie that grows on you the more times you've seen it. And I've only seen it probably 3 or 4 times, but I really do appreciate it. And it is extremely culty and extremely enjoyable. And you can just let it wash over you in a very late night kind of just manner.
And this is Johnny Depp when he was Johnny Depp, and not Johnny Depp insert eye roll Johnny Depp.
Exactly. Exactly. So I had a couple of movies of Johnny's actually, and they were, you know, there's I'm going to mention a few different kind of movies in honorable mention later on. But Dave, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead from 1978.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
So not the Zack Snyder remake, you know, from 2004. This is the original, 1978. I absolutely love the entire Dead series, and it was hard for me. I think I put this at number 5 because while it is an extremely enjoyable movie, it is somewhat dated, but for the time, it was extremely groundbreaking practical effects. And I mean, I do love going back to this movie. This is like one of my mainstay Halloween movies. Group of people escape the zombie apocalypse out of a city, hold up in a small mall, and they have this minor inner turmoil that's going between them as the entire world around them is going to hell. There's some absolute gut-wrenching, gory scenes, but then there's also scenes of levity and fun where you could see where people are starting to kind of lose it in the zombie apocalypse a little bit. And the ending is just George A. Romero. That it's almost like you take the director and you turn him into a verb, like or an adjective. This is George A. Romero. Like, this is when you think of his movies, this is the movie that I think of, and I absolutely love just about every minute of it, and I can't get people to watch it enough. I know a lot of people these days really, really enjoy and love the Zack Snyder cut, the Zack Snyder one, which is fine. That's great. I don't dislike that movie, but I think more people should be watching this one because I think it says a lot about our world today, which is very reminiscent of the world that it was made from, with rapid consumerism and all that stuff. So yeah, gotta be George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
All right, buddy. So my number 4 is 2004's Napoleon Dynamite.
God damn it.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountains? Yeah.
Now, this is a classic case where, I'll be honest, when this first came out, so I was maybe 19, 20 years old, I guess, when I first saw this.
Almost past the age when you should enjoy it, right?
I guess. I mean, I did not like this movie.
No, don't feel like bad, because like I remember I was probably 17 and I went with my girlfriend at the time who was 16, and we went and saw it, and it was like the first time me and her went to the movie theaters and didn't feel the same way coming out of a movie, where she absolutely loved it and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
And it was this most awkward thing where she's like, how can you not find it hilarious? And I was like,
how can you?
I just found it awkward and annoying.
Yeah.
And I think over time,
it was almost like cutting edge, like before its time.
Totally was.
In some ways.
Totally was. It was definitely before its time.
Because, my God, I've seen this probably 5 or 6 times now, and it only gets better.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It only gets better and better. And I'm telling you, the second and definitely the third, locked in, loved this movie. Was full on, got it, loved it. Every single character, every single comedic tick and moment. It made me like almost angry with myself
for not liking it.
Yeah, not liking it in the beginning. But at the same time, you never saw anything like this before.
I think there is something to be said about zeitgeist, like wearing you down. Also, where when you hear so many people talking about something that they really enjoy, and then you give it more of a chance.
It was an MTV movie. It was hyped up a lot.
But you give it more of a chance when you find out that more people like it, and you pay attention maybe a little bit more to see like what they were seeing and stuff. Also, when I saw it, I was dark Dave, right? Like I was emo Dave. Like this is Dave who was like, Fight Club's my favorite movie. I was an annoying pissant little shit at that time. So like this wasn't dark enough for me. I didn't get the humor. And then I think me now finds things far more subtly humorous than
God. I mean, everything between the dynamic between Napoleon and Pedro to
right.
Of course Uncle Rico, and like, just knowing as an adult Uncle Rico is so much more funnier in a lot of ways.
I just watched Rushmore again this weekend, late night after I was finished editing our last episode, and like I realized like that movie came out in 1998. If I had seen that movie when I was a younger man, I would have hated it. I would have thought that it was a boring, meandering, unfunny movie. But because I saw it more towards my 20s into like adulthood and stuff like that, I found a ton of humor in it. Yeah. And I think it's the same way with Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
All right. My number 4, Jay, is Spinal Tap.
Very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, Right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes are going to be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up,
Yeah.
all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Because this is, very much like Napoleon Dynamite. It's this comedy that just exists in its gags. It is all gags, and it is. It's amazing when you think that like most of this is completely ad-lib. They just turned the camera on and just became these characters and just let it flow out. And there's just moments of true hilarity. And I know when I did this, this was on my top 5 for rock and roll movies. You hadn't seen it. Have you seen it since?
Right, I have not.
Dude, you got to see this movie.
And it is on my list to see. I definitely I saw the trailer. It's definitely something I'm definitely looking forward to finally catching at some point.
It was definitely before its time, because this type of comedy comes around like every now and then. Like, obviously in the 80s with This Is Spinal Tap. Again, later on in the early 2000s with like Anchorman and stuff like that. These type of just ad-lib comedies where these comedic actors just embody a role and play that character so much that they're just always on and the camera's always rolling and they catch the best bits. And obviously it's filled with completely iconic scenes of, the amp going to 11. And I love it. And it's like, these go to 11. And when they're getting all hyped up to go out for their show and they're like, rock and roll. And they can't find the stage and they get turned around, but they have to keep that amped up. Yeah. Rock and roll. It's filled with so many funny little bits like that. And if it's one of those movies that you haven't seen or you haven't seen it in a while, it's one of those ones I think everyone's got to go back to every now
few
and then.
years. Yeah, exactly.
Because there's so many little things that you are going to find funny in it, right, that something you found funny 10 years ago may not be funny now, but you may find something else in it
to be even more funny
now.
Right,
yeah,
right.
So
I got you.
Love it.
Good call, man. So my number 3 is 1995's Clueless.
I don't know why Dion's going out with a high school boy. They're like dogs. You have to clean them and feed them, and they're just like these nervous creatures that jump and slobber all over you.
Ew! Get off of me! Ugh, as if.
Yes, Clueless.
That's okay. This is a wonderful movie.
Ooh, baby. So I'm going. My list is very much nostalgic rewatchability. I'm going to say that right now. So there are obviously some movies that I think maybe quote unquote are better or more interesting or more culty or whatever. But for me, I really just have to stick with what I think is more just nostalgic because it hits home personally for me more. Now, Clueless is exactly one of those kind of examples where I was a youngster, and when this came out, this was 90s, like all over, flash on the screen, socially, high school era, popular kids, rich kids, poor kids, skater kids. Like it just hit it on the head.
It was a very smart teen comedy.
So funny. And so self-aware, and it was very well executed from the filmmakers to the actors. Paul Rudd, still as gorgeous as ever, and Alicia Silverstone, always had a crush on her from that moment when I saw her in this movie. And
as crazy as it sounds, like
it's so fucking perfect the way they did this movie. It holds up. I think it's actually now getting another crowd, another generation's recovering or getting introduced into this kind of movie because it is so blatantly crazy and funny.
What's what I found surprising, like after I saw it, because I've never read this book, but it's based on Jane Austen's Emma, which is like the story of like a socialite and stuff like that. And I remember the first time when I watched this, the first thing I thought was like chick flick, right? And then like when I watch it as I get older, it has something to say about teen society at its time, or just teens in general, and the self-absorbed nature of teenagers, and how laughable that is to an adult, and that's what winds up becoming funny. And the fact that Paul Rudd looks exactly the same
as he does
at
now.
age 50 as he did at age 25.
It's unbelievable.
It's disgusting. The fact that this man has found Ponce de Leon. He's found the Fountain of Youth, and he's been drinking it. And I need to know where it is.
Him and Jared Leto.
I know.
They're the two guys I think of more than anybody. It's unbelievable.
All right, Jay.
What's your number 3?
My number 3. It's the 1994 directorial debut for Kevin Smith. It's Clerks.
Working on my day off. The goddamn steel shutters are closed. I deal with every backward-ass fuck on the planet. I smell like shoe polish. My ex-girlfriend is catatonic after fucking a dead guy. And my present girlfriend has sucked 36 dicks.
37.
And I got to put this on here because I respect Kevin Smith so much, but I also, like, so much of my youth was growing up with Kevin Smith movies. Like, all throughout high school, me and my good friend Kenny, like, we watched Kevin Smith movies. Like, we loved them. Like, we liked the Viewist universe. We liked this world that he built. And one of my favorite things doing it was, like, watching Clerks, watching Mallrats, watching Chasing Amy, and, like, drawing these lines that are like that connect them all, and like where they all exist in the same universe. That and it's funny. Like it's funny, and especially like when you're a 20-something and you're watching Clerks and you're seeing Dante in this dead end rut, and you can feel for him because you feel like you're in a dead end rut, but like you don't want to be Dante, even though you feel like Dante. That's not who you want to be. You want to be Randall. Randall, who accepts his lot in life and takes the bull by the horns and just fucking does what he wants. You wish that you were that person, and we all feel like we had that friend that just took the bull by the horns and was so much outgoing than we were and stuff like that. And I think like that dynamic being brought to film it was done in a way that I don't think anyone's ever really done it before with a script. To this day, like I can watch it and it's still funny and stuff, where I may not resonate with the characters of Dante and Randall like I did in my 20s. It still brings me back to that time when I was that age, and being somewhat nostalgic for it, but also being like, thank God it's fucking over, right? Like, I like getting older for the most part. The aches and pains, they suck, but I like becoming a more mature being and watching them go through these completely trivial, life things that are so important to them.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you feel good, but it also makes you feel nostalgic, and it makes you laugh a lot. So Clerks, 100%, Kevin Smith, I can't say enough about it.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of his movies are cult-ish movies, just like Jim Jarmusch. Now, my number 2. This is a film that I have heard about for a long time before I finally caught it, about a year to 2 years ago. And more and more, still enjoy, still respect it, and get more from it. And it's very rewatchable, even though it is a very lightheartedly dark crime drama thriller movie.
Lightheartedly dark crime drama thriller movie. Okay.
2008's In Bruges.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think you would understand.
It's kind of hard to pin that down, isn't it?
Kinda. It is kinda.
It's kind of like a crime comedy, but it's also like
European. They got the heavy accents going on. This movie is mostly all taking place in Bruges, Belgium,
but it's also extremely dark. Like it is
very dark
movie.
It is, and that's one of the things that I really love about it. It did such a fantastic job of marrying all of those tones so beautifully. And this is the debut film for Martin McDowell, and McDowell he's done 7 Psychopaths and obviously 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and he's an accomplished guy, man, and he doesn't do many things, but he's really talented. He's a writer director. He does all this shit, and this one he just knocks it out of the park. The chemistry between Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, playing these assassins, hiding out in this charming little town, and it's a town that everyone finds charming, except for Colin Farrell. Exactly. He really kills it, man. His paranoia, his neurosis, the trauma that he's dealing with, and there's a lot going on in this movie, and it goes by quick. I think it's about an hour and 50 minutes long, but it's super good. It's super rewatchable, and it's definitely worth checking out. Please go find this. This is one of those things where I think Dave, along with my buddy John,
oh my God,
talked about it for years before I finally saw it, and there's really happy I finally got it, and I love it.
I absolutely love when I first get there, and Ken is talking about how charming Bruges is, and he's like,
Ken, I grew up in Dublin. I love Dublin. If I'd grown up on a farm and was retarded, Bruges might impress me. But I didn't, so it doesn't.
That's the way you're introduced to Bruges.
Oh god!
And of course, the whole little person dwarf subplot.
Yeah,
it's one of those movies.
So many good things
you just have to experience. It's definitely streaming right now
somewhere.
It's either Hulu, Netflix, or Amazon Prime. I know it's streaming somewhere, but yeah, it's definitely a gem that I think people should check out. All right, Jay, my number 2, Reservoir Dogs. Man, I put this on here over Pulp Fiction and other Quentin Tarantino films. Not that I think it's the best Quentin Tarantino film, but I think it's the best.
It's the more culty film.
It is the more culty film, but I didn't just put it on here because it's Quentin Tarantino and I felt like it should be on here. Like, I truly love this movie. I love the storytelling in this movie. And I remember watching this movie and I was like, this is kind of like the first time I was introduced to non-linear storytelling, like this storytelling that tells a character's story more so that it's telling like this giant overarching story. Now, each of their like little chapters, they all interweave and stuff like that, and we do get a full cohesive story, but we're not getting it at the time. And I remember being really impressed with that as a very young man, but I also being really impressed with the blood and the fucking violence and the way that these gangsters talked and the way that like just everything is just this little conversation where there's so many little nuggets of like funny but also like truth and stuff. Like, I love the diner scene. You know, I love that these are a bunch of machismo professional criminals and they're arguing over who gets to be what color. Like, why does he get to be Mr. Pink? You know, why does he get be Mr. Blue? I want to be Mr. Blue. Why does he get Mr. Blonde? Why am I Mr. Pink? You know, like it's funny, but it's also extremely dark, and I don't think any movie had ever taken crime in that way to bring such stark violence to it.
He changed the game.
And I mean, of course, like the scene that everyone remembers, and it's the scene I think of all the time, is...
You ever listen to K. Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s? It's my personal favorite.
Joe Egan and Jerry Rafferty were a duo known as Dealer's Wheel when they recorded this Dylan-esque pop bubble gum favorite from April of 1974. That reached up to number 5 as K. Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s continues.
I mean, how can you not fall in love with the movie at that scene? And then Steelers Wheel plays and he cuts off the fucking cop's ear. It's just so fucking good. All right, Jay, we're there. Before we do your number 1, any honorable mentions that you want to rattle off?
I will, Dave. I have written down Office Space, Donnie Darko, Ed Wood, and Crybaby. So I would kind of argue
that Ed Wood isn't cult.
Oh, yeah, it is.
All right. Fair enough. I mean,
that was not a fucking hit at all.
It just feels like it's Burton like in his heyday. You know, he had already done a bunch of big blockbuster films.
But this was not a successful.
It's true.
Film. I mean, it got Martin Landau an Oscar.
Look,
but like that was just
one thing I learned like going through this list, and like some things that I thought were cult but kind of weren't cult. I was like, cult really is in the eye of the beholder. Like it just has to be something that didn't resonate at the time but resonates now, and something that like people enjoy now. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Fine. Fair enough. All right. So my honorable mentions are Reanimator, The Blues Brothers, Last House on the Left, the 1972 version, like one of Wes Craven's first films, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, They Live. I mean, who doesn't love They Live? Put the damn glasses on. I've come to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum. Rowdy Piper's, opus. A movie called Wrist Cutters, Jay. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that. Patrick Fugit commits suicide, kind of goes into like this in-between life and death world. Dead Alive, Peter Jackson early film. Be Kind, Rewind, Michel Gondry film with Jack Black and Mos Def. And then finally, Jay, what I think is Guy Ritchie's best film, Snatch, because
good call, Dave. Yeah, that's definitely worthy.
Snatch is the one that didn't make my list. Like that's my number 6. Like it's the one that I didn't get to put on my list, and I'm really regretting that I had to cut it off. But you got to make the cutoff somewhere. But Snatch is just so damn good. All right, Jay, what is your number 1 cult movie?
I'm actually going to go with Swingers.
All right, now I want you to go over to that girl and I want you to get those digits. Your money. Come here a second. Listen to me. Now look it. When you go up to talk to her, man, I don't want you to be the guy in the PG-13 movie everyone's really hoping makes it happen. I want you to be like the guy in the rated R movie, you know? The guy you're not sure whether or not you like yet. You're not sure where he's coming from, okay? You're a bad man. You're a bad man. You're a bad man. Bad man.
It's 1996's Doug Liman film written by Jon Favreau, and you know this is the first big marking of the duo Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau on screen. Their friendship, you know, along with you see Ron Livingston in there, and a couple other little wisecracking asshole friends of theirs, Patrick Van Horn, you don't see very often anymore, and Alex Dessert. So it Heather Graham playing the vixen that Jon Favreau is just pawning after towards the end of the movie, after he's finally getting over his ex that they when she broke up with him. This movie is it's so male. It's so relatable in a lot of ways too, because I had been that guy. Like I've been that corny guy that obsesses over the girl
that
and
tries to be so cool too. Like,
well, but not just tries to be cool, but also the Jon Favreau character. Like you have like your friendships. Like you have the Vince Vaughn guy who just wants to party, fuck, hang out, live their best life.
How I picture and portray you.
Right. But deep down, I'm Jon Favreau. I'm the one that's crying in his coffee and alone in his apartment, not showering and shaving for like 4 days straight. Like I am that kind of depressive dude, wallowing in his misery. There's so many aspects of this movie that I could relate to, because there are so many aspects of me in me. So, it's
4 days without showering, crying into your coffee.
Wow.
You're wallowing in something, Jay. It's your semen. You got to watch that crusty bits off of your pubes, buddy.
Yeah, that gets rough. That's good. Rough. No, but this
have you ever
movie
jerked off so much that you didn't clean your pubes off that you wound up having to shampoo and condition your pubes?
I gave up and just shaved them off. No, so this movie, I just love it. I love the way it ends, the shots of it, the lines, the bits, the ending. It's got so much to it, so much rewatchability. It's a lot of fun. I do think it is a bit of a culty movie, and I think it is something that I think a lot of this generation has not caught yet. I think they're a little behind, perhaps. The new age moviegoers, the youngsters that are like 21 and under, say, whatever. I don't think they've caught this movie yet. I'm just saying that. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I just feel like it's kind of flown under the radar for a little while now. But
if they're good movie buffs, they've caught it.
Yeah. So I definitely say, if you haven't seen this, check it out. And yeah.
Mine's one that I'm sure everybody who listens to this show have seen. If they haven't, they should have. And if they don't like it, then you belong in Jay's camp. Get off of my side. It's Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Hey, I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul.
Swallow this.
I mean, come on. I talk about it all the time. It's literally one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
There are some trilogies that I absolutely love. Indiana Jones, the original Star Wars trilogy, Evil Dead trilogy, this Army of Darkness, like I absolutely love them. I know, Jay, you didn't like it, and we just talked about it an absolute crap ton in our movie Cocktail for it. So I'm not going to belabor the point at all, but I love the movie. I love the blend of comedy and horror. I love the direction of it. And I love the practical effects, the blood and gore. And I love it mainly for its mistakes. I love the fact that its mistakes are there on film to show what you can do with a true low budget and the limitations and stuff like that.
Sure.
But you can still make an effective horror movie, an effective horror comedy at that.
That's enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, like I said before, I enjoyed it more the second time watching. I had to see it twice.
I can see that. It's one of those movies.
However,
where
it is
you're
one
kind
of
of
those things.
bewildered the first time you see it.
Well, especially because it's so fucking dated. You know, that's the problem. I think if you see this movie when you were a kid in 1993, 1995, whatever it might have been as a youngster, not when it first came out, obviously, but like you're young and you never really seen too many horror movies before, and you see this thing, yeah, that would probably fuck me up. And I probably would have held it to a much more higher degree to this day. But watching it for the first time as a 35-year-old, not so much. I especially because I'm not a horror guy to begin with, and especially not a horror comedy
you are
guy.
not.
So, you know, it was hard for me to stomach, and it was one of those things where knowing what I was getting into the second time around, it definitely helped. And you definitely appreciate certain things, and you enjoy a lot more.
Well, I'm glad that you are turning around on it just a little bit, Jay. Turn around every now and then. I get a little bit colder. I don't know.
I know.
And another piece of me dies. Turn around, bright eyes. Every now and then I fall apart. And I need you more than ever. I fucking need you here tonight. I fucking need you
As
now
Dave's air thrusting right now.
So that's going to do it for our top 5 cult films. Please reach out to us on Twitter and on Facebook. It's at Super Movie Pod on Twitter, Super Movie Bros Podcast on Facebook. Let us know what your favorite cult films are. We'll read some of your responses on next week's show. If you want to catch some of our Patreon exclusive movie cocktails, some of those Patreon exclusive episodes that we have coming out, you're going to have to join the Patreon. So head over to patreon.com/Super Movie Bros Podcast on there. For just $1 a month, you can get those additional episodes or more, and we have some other incentives for you. That reminds me, I've been doing some Patreon updating this past week, just updating some of our patrons on stuff that's going to be coming, but I also forgot that I need to take some pictures of some of the new stuff that we have in the loot chest for people, for the new people that are coming in,
a lot
for
of
them
fun stuff
to check out. So you can head over to patreon.com/Super Movie Bros Podcast, join the Patreon, become part of the family, get the extra content. And then we are part of a network. We are part of the Podfix Network. So make sure that you are checking out all the great shows that are part of the Podfix Network. You can check them out at podfixnetwork.com. I really want to thank all of you guys for listening. Have a great night. Cheers.
Cheers.